So the first time I ever came to San Francisco, I was 18 and I came for Pride. And I'll never, ever forget the moment of standing on the corner of Castro and Market next to the Chevron, holding my girlfriend's hand in public with my little shaved head and my little pink backpack. And this drag queen walks by and goes, "Honey, how old are you?" And I was like 18. She was like, "Girl, I have stains on my underwear older than you." And I was like, I don't know where I am, but this is where I want to be. I think my relationship to community at this point is like my why. It's like why I get up every day. I was born in a small town, a manufacturing town in Lewiston, Maine. Being a minister's child, we had church twice on Sundays, Wednesdays, youth group on Fridays, Bible study night. I went to Christian schools, and for 1 year, my dad was an evangelist, so he traveled around the US, mostly through the South. Books were like my best friends. I was obsessed with Nancy Drew and then the Hardy Boys, and those were my friends, and that was sort of how I got to live a world outside of church. Again, coming from this really repressed environment where sexuality was not talked about and where being gay or queer was an abomination. To see photos of Studio 54 with people just living so freely, and gender didn't matter. You couldn't really tell who was what, and that just excited me so much. I have Eve as a tattoo because Eve was considered this terrible person for wanting to eat from the tree of knowledge, and I wanted to see things and I wanted to be around people that were different from me, and I knew that I was different from everybody I was around, and while I accepted them, they didn't accept me. So realizing that I was queer around 12 or so, I started seeking it out, but I wasn't allowed. When I finally came out to myself as a feminist in high school, and I said bisexual, but everybody said I had to be a lesbian because I was butch, and no man would like me. Rude. Finding queer community at first meant finding the lesbian scene, and my first concert was Ani DeFranco, and I had a shaved head and my "This is what a feminist looks like" t-shirt on, and I was screaming, "Marry me, Ani." And then later on, when I found my trans family, and now that's what I fight for, and that's what I think about 24/7, is making sure that we always have the right and the space to be in community with each other, with people that are just like us. I got started in small business because I have a lot of opinions, which does not make me the best employee. And I was complaining one day about how I didn't like the way my company was the company that I worked for was going, and a friend of mine said, "Well, you should open up your own business." And I was like, you might as well say, "You should go to the moon." I was like, "I'm just a barista, what are you talking about?" And it was one of those lucky moments where somebody believed in me and changed my life by saying, "I will invest if you want to open something." And I just sort of sat there stunned, and then I went home and I was like, "Well, where do you start?" And I got on Craigslist and I typed in "coffee shop for rent." In 2009, I opened a little 250 square foot cafe. It's about the size of a bathroom. It has one communal table, so everybody eats at the same table. And now looking back, it's like such a social experiment to get people from all over the world to share a meal at a table that only sat 8. And then we had some little seating outside, and then eventually we built a parklet so more people could hang out outside. In 2018, when I swore, I was done, San Francisco was just too crazy, rents were too high, everybody was leaving, all of our favorite queer spaces were going out, We had lost to Lexington 3 years before. The gangway had just closed. Divas was closing. And I got a lucky break again where somebody said, hey, do you want to come take a look at this space? And I walked into this 4,000 square foot soundproofed bar and restaurant in the Mission. And I had 3 weeks to figure out how I was going to fund it and find partners. But we did it, and then we opened in 6 months, which is unheard of. And so we opened the first queer women and trans owned bar and restaurant that I'm aware of. So that was the beginning of that, and then I left that project, and I'm now working with San Francisco Pride, which is the largest outdoor event. But all the sort of thread that runs through all of my projects are creating these spaces and environments for community. I think COVID has changed the landscape for everyone it's affected every single aspect of our lives. I don't think we'll ever go back to life before. As somebody who produces events, it's been very challenging. This year for Pride, we had always done, in person. We, again, throw the largest outdoor event, so there's between 800,000 and 1 million people that come into San Francisco. It's really required us to pivot and figure out how do you maintain community during these times where you can't be together. And so one of the projects that I'm really, really proud about is the San Francisco Queer Nightlife Fund. We came together because we realized that there was nobody advocating for queer nightlife workers. So go-go dancers, party promoters, people that were gonna make cash that initially we didn't know that they would be able to qualify for unemployment. And so there was a group of 6 of us that just came together. And over the last 6 months, we've raised almost $300,000. And right now I've been working extensively in the Castro because it is one of our last neighborhoods, and it's supposed to be an LGBTQ neighborhood, and it's been really good at being a G neighborhood, but we're about to change that. So I'm excited to be doing the work that I'm doing in the Castro, and I've learned so much, being a friend of the Transgender district and watching Aria. It's been really inspirational, and I hope that we are going to be as successful. From the first time I learned about the Transgender district, I was like, I want to be a part of this. This is so important. There's no place in the world for us. There's no neighborhood that I've ever gone to or been in that was built by and for trans folks, and that is the most exciting thing that I could ever wish to be a part of. And then Honey Mahogany asked me to come to City Hall to speak in front of the Board of Supervisors, and I was terrified. I'd never even been in the I didn't even know what the Board of Supervisors was. So I walk into this room and it's all serious, and I'm like, so scared, and I walk up to the microphone, and there's all of these, mostly white people just staring at me, these cis, not queer white people just staring at me, and a big TV, and the first thing I had to do is walk up and take that microphone and go, take it all the way down so that I could speak. And I blacked out. I don't even remember what I said. I just remember everybody looking at me and being like, "Aw." But I was like, I'm gonna get over my fear, because this needs to be said. It needs to be said that there are people who support this. If I had to describe my journey, from little preacher's daughter to trans flag waving, non-binary, living their best little queer life, it's persistence. It's like one of the best things about being trans is it teaches us that we can do whatever we want. You don't like the way you look? You can fix it. You don't like the way you feel? You can fix that too. My advice is get involved. Get on boards, get elected, call your district supervisors, ask how you can help, get involved. We do not have enough of our people at the table.